Hello, and welcome back to the Professor's Perspective. I'm David Gustafson, and for this episode, we're going to focus on bridging the generation gap. Generational differences and the occasionally amusing accusations they produce are as American as, well, apple pie. Younger generations can view their elders as being out of touch, dismissing them with short but stinging, okay, boomers. Older adults, meanwhile, can see millennials as being a bit on the lazy side, even blaming them for the demise of things like casual dining and breakfast cereal. And the youngest of young adults in Gen Z are maligned on multiple fronts as being part of a generation of smartphone addicts who exist in their own world. Beyond the barbs and rhetoric, generational comparisons can provide a useful construct for helping marketers understand their potential customers. A recent Burrell Associates survey found that 90% of decision makers in small to medium-sized businesses agree that each generation has its own set of beliefs, preferences, and shared experiences that influence the way they think and act. Interestingly, though, nearly 3 out of 5 respondents indicated their companies are not actively using generational marketing tactics. With that in mind, let's take a quick look at some key generational considerations, starting with how different generations are defined. Interestingly, there is no single official source for this, but generally, consensus exists around parameters put in place by the Pew Research Center. Pew outlines 7 living generations, each covering a span of approximately 15 years. Boomers, Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z each represent roughly 20% of the U.S. population, but there are noticeable distribution differences when it comes to the workplace. As the bookends of the current workforce, Boomers and Gen Zers will essentially flip by 2025 as more Boomers retire and more younger workers enter the workforce. Gen Xers and Millennials combine to make up roughly 3/4 of the current U.S. workforce, and that figure is expected to remain relatively stable. From a consumer spending perspective, this makes Gen X a potentially lucrative target, as some projections show that generation's disposable income being nearly as high as that of Millennials and Gen Z combined. In a similar vein, the VAB estimates that more than 40 cents of every dollar spent by U.S. consumers comes from people 55 and older. Millennials are on Boomers' heels, though, when it comes to spending, and Gen Z represents opportunities to appeal to new brand loyalists, which is why those generations receive a significant amount of attention from marketers. From a broad stroke perspective, advertising on traditional media, especially television, continues to be an extremely effective Gen X strategy. According to eMarketer forecasts, that generation watches more TV each day than their Millennial and Gen Z counterparts combined. Despite spending less time with traditional TV, though, the Millennial and Gen Z cohorts are still receptive to TV advertising, with each group favoring TV over online advertising in terms of how they want to interact with brands. A sweet spot for reaching both the Millennial and Gen Z generations is digital video. Both generations outpace their Gen X peers when it comes to media multitasking, and the combination of online and streaming video is at the top of each group's media consumption. A differentiator can be found in the other ways those generations prefer to interact with brands. Compared to the Millennial generation, Gen Z is about 1.5 times more likely to prefer influencer marketing and social media strategies, which is not surprising given that Gen Z's use of social media platforms is the most diverse of any generation. For now, we hope this quick take on generations may prove helpful the next time you see a TikTok Taught Me commercial on TV and start to want to tackle your own multimedia generational strategy. When you're ready, Cox Media is here to help. Until then, thanks for watching, and that's the Inside Scoop.